I came outside this morning to share a story. And as soon as I sat down on the outside furniture, this little cute kitty, Boo Radley is his name, came to sit where he always sits, right here. Whether I'm inside or outside, if I sit down, he comes to sit down on me. It's a good spot, and he's a sweet kitty, so we'll let him stay. So I woke up this morning and I was thinking about a story I've learned since we came here to Clover Valley, and it's been almost 10 months now since we first came to the valley, and it's been an amazing 10 months. And here, I'll turn this around so you can see. I mean, you can see everything we've gotten done. For those of you who've been following the Wallapini updates, you know that William's been in the process of building that Wallapini since the middle of June, and we have recordings since August. You'll hear this water going next to us during the story. I think I've explained in past videos that this water has to stay on because it's connected to the cattle trough further down the valley. And if we turn it off, then the cattle have no water. So we're building kind of the fortress of solitude here with the frozen ice. It's pretty. So the story I want to share has to do with the mountain that's right there, right in front of us. That one. Right above that fence post with the water, the rain gauge on it. And we have to run all the way back to World War II for this story. January 2nd of 1943, a B-17 bomber took off from Wendover airfield. Now, for those of you who have not stopped by Wendover for anything other than gas on I-80 on your way to the west or to the east, or to gamble at one of the many casinos, which I have never frequented and don't plan on ever frequenting, Wendover was the location of an airbase during World War II, where the Enola Gay practiced bombing runs, for those of you who are history buffs and know what that means. And other airplanes practiced, pilots practiced there. And this particular B-17 took off to do an observation run that ran from Wendover to Elko, around to Pocatello, back down to Ogden, and then across the Salt Flats. And they took off about 8:10 in the morning, and they circled Wendover, the base there in Wendover, for about 50 minutes. They were waiting for an all clear because there was a winter storm moving in. And they were eventually told that they could go ahead and proceed on their mission, but they were to go ahead and cut out Pocatello and Ogden from their run because the weather was so bad. And as soon as they had that all clear, they headed west. And they think that they flew probably about another 50 minutes before they encountered that peak right there. Now, the locals during the day, and back in the 1940s, said that there were blizzard conditions that day. And I don't know if there was a weather service in the 1940s, so I'm not sure if a blizzard had been declared. There wasn't one listed, but those in the valley can testify to the fact that even if it's fairly nice in the valley, up on the mountain it can be completely obscured from view by clouds and have snow on the mountain when it's clear down here. But whatever happened, whatever the weather conditions were, that B-17 with 10 soldiers on board hit that peak, and it flipped end over end until it landed on a cliff on the other side at the head of Pole Creek Canyon. There's about 5 Pole Creek Canyons in Nevada, because I tried to find pictures that I could share with this story, but there aren't any specific ones to that canyon. They lost contact with them, obviously, on January 2nd, 1943, but they didn't find them until June 25th of that same year, almost 6 months later. And by that time in June, the snow had melted enough that the rescue missions that were, or recovery missions really, that were flying out to find the airplane finally saw it on the top of a cliff where the snow had finally melted enough that they could locate the wreckage of the plane. As soon as they located it, they immediately sent out recovery crews to bring back the fallen soldiers. And at that time, 1943, they would have been called soldiers. There was no Army Air Force yet. It was the Army Air Corps. So soldiers came over from the base in Wendover, and guided by local ranchers, they climbed that mountain, very precarious climb, up to 11,000 feet, where the wreckage was located, and all 10 bodies of the airmen were found. I've thought of this story so many times since we first moved here. It's such a compelling story. It's tragic. It's unusual. And it's right here. I've looked up at that mountain so many times, the one that I admire because it's so beautiful, and contemplate that even in its beauty, it's also deadly. And I've thought about the soldiers on the plane who were well-trained. They knew how to fly. They were even aware of the bad weather. They knew that the conditions were bad. But they were flying by the instruments on their plane, and the instruments couldn't tell them that there was a mountain in front of them. Our capacity with our airplanes today is much different than it was in 1943. There was no warning voice saying terrain ahead, or mountain ahead. They never saw it in front of them. They didn't see the mountain till they hit it. And by then it was too late. So I've pondered this story not only because of the unique factor and the tragic factor, but because I'm in the middle of studying psychology. I'm finally, after many years pursuing my degree, finishing my education that I, postponed for family and for farming and a host of other reasons, but mostly family and farming. And I've been studying positive psychology, especially, and what it is that causes human flourishing. And I've thought about that in terms of this particular story. The soldiers on that plane were doing everything that they could to prepare themselves to be safe, to be able to make it home, to protect themselves and their country in every way possible. Everything that they knew, they were just well prepared. But something happened. Something cropped up in their path that they couldn't prepare for. Something that ruined all those plans and made all that preparation mean pretty much nothing, except for one thing. Human flourishing is not based on a destination. Human flourishing is based on how we live in the now that is available to us. See, there's this interesting little habit, capacity of neuroscience in the human brain that we tend to overemphasize the importance of a future destination on our happiness. We believe that it will have more impact on us than it does, and we underestimate the capacity for happiness today and the power that our decisions today have in our life. See, people say things like, when I lose 100 pounds, then I'll be happy. Or when I make a 6-figure income, then I'll be happy. When I get married, I'll be happy. When I have children, I'll be happy. When I finally retire, I'll be happy. When I get that job I wanted, I'll be happy. When I finally own 10 acres and a mule, I'll be happy. We overestimate how happy we'll be when something in the future happens to us. Because we're really not. We have short-term pleasure in the thing that happens, and then we return to our basic set point of happiness. We go back to the exact same place we were before the destination showed up. And we underestimate how happy it makes us to prepare for eventualities. We underestimate how happy we are when we do the small and simple things that lead to the destination we desire. In essence, we pin all our hopes on a spot on the map, and we forget that happiness happens along the highways and the freeways and the scenic byways that get us to that spot. Real human happiness, real human flourishing happens in the day-to-day things we do. It's not in where we get to, it's in how we live. And the reason this matters, and the reason I think about it in conjunction with that story, is because there are things beyond our control, like a mountain that you can't see in front of you on a snowy January morning in 1943. Those soldiers had dreams and plans and families they wanted to get home to, a country that they were protecting, but they didn't make it home. They never made it to that destination because a mountain was in their way, and it stopped. It stopped that journey. Sometimes the destinations we set for ourselves, the happiness points, the milestones that we want, never arrive. For whatever reason, they don't arrive. A marriage ends, a friendship ends, someone we love dies, a company goes bankrupt, a business that we worked our life on falls apart. That's just how life is. There's things we can control and things that we can't. That's why happiness, the greatest happiness we enjoy, is not in the place where so many things that are beyond our control have an impact on. Happiness is in the how of our path to get there. It's saying the kind word to someone. It's reaching out and maintaining connections with friends. It's developing lifelong relationships. It's treasuring our family. It's prayers and study and reading and good books and movies and meditation, music. It's all the things that we take with us on a road trip that make it one of the most memorable things of our lives. And not just the seashore we stood on or the city we visited and took a snapshot of. So I wanted to share that today as I was looking out at the peak. I wanted to share the story in hopes that maybe it would give you something to think about today too. Maybe think about your destinations. I bet they're good ones. And maybe spend a few minutes thinking beyond the goal to the goal-getters you have in your life. The daily goal-getters. The things you're doing to get you to where you want to be. Because happiness is found in how you live. It's found in how you move along your journey. So if you're wondering why happiness isn't coming to you, or you're feeling like it's a long ways away, maybe look at what you're doing every day. Rather than choosing a new goal, maybe make happiness now part of your priority. Make time for the conversation with a friend. Make time for a date with your spouse. Make time to just visit with your child. Send a letter to a friend, to a grandma. Be grateful. Be grateful for right where you are now. Because there's more happiness here today than in that place you're waiting to get to. And there'll be happiness there when you get there too, but don't deny yourself the happiness that's here for you now. Enjoy it.